All right, good morning, everybody. Let me just say it's, sorry, I just bit a candy. It was it is a privilege to be here in front of you again today. And let me give thanks to the Creator for bringing us here today. And also, most of all, let us give him thanks for actually setting apart a day for us to rest. Because I know we've all had that one boss that would work us into a grave if he could, right? Let me see, trying to put these in order here. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotah vetzivanu la'asak ben v'rei Torah. Please, Jehovah, make the Torah's words sweet in the mouth and in the mouth of all your people, the house of Israel. And may we, your children, all of Israel, know your name and the name of your Messiah, Yeshua. And may we study your Torah simply because it is good. Blessed are you, Jehovah, who gave us the Torah of truth. And here's our daily dose. We who live in the shelter of Elyon, who spend our nights in the shadow of Shaddai, who say to Adonai, our refuge, our fortress, our God in whom we trust, he will rescue us from the trap of the hunter and from the plague of calamities. He will cover us with his pinions, and under his wings we will find refuge. His truth is a shield and protection. We will not fear the terrors of night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the plague that roams in the dark, or the scourge that wreaks havoc at noon. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it won't come near us. Only keep our eyes open, and we will see how the wicked are punished. For we have made Adonai the Most High, who is our refuge, our dwelling place. No disaster will happen to us, no calamity will come near our tent, for he will order his angels to care for us and guard us wherever we go. They will carry us in their hands so that we won't trip on a stone, and we will tread down lions and snakes, young lions and serpents we will trample underfoot. And Jehovah says, because he loves me, I will rescue him. Because he knows my name, I will protect him. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him when he is in trouble, and I will extricate him and bring him honor. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my salvation. Amen. Powerful words if you actually read those and think about it. Okay. Everybody can sit down if you want to. So over the past week, Pastor Jeff and Pastor Kenny have been posting some stuff on Facebook. I hope you all have had an opportunity to log in and take a look at what's going on over there. And there was a thought that popped into my head, and it was something that Pastor Jeff had said on the last sermon, talking about missions and how a lot of times people will say stuff like, why are you guys going over there? There's plenty of people here, that need to hear the word of God and all this stuff, and there was a thought that popped into my head because, I'm retired out of the Army, veteran, all that good stuff. And we talk about it like, well, there's plenty of veterans here that need help, and why are we doing all this other stuff? But it came into my head that the reason Pastor Jeff and Pastor Kenny go over there is because, one, that's where God told them to go, first and foremost. Two, the people over there are more receptive to the word and willing to change. They're looking for that answer. They're looking for that something that they've been searching for. What they're looking for is their Creator. That's what they're looking for. People here aren't looking for their Creator. Writ large, not everybody, right? People here are looking for a handout. They're looking for a little bit of help. They're not looking to change their ways, change their lives, and give up the stuff that they need to give up. And that was just something I figured I'd share with you guys because it kind of ties in with what I'm talking about today. And let's see, the slide things are working today, so good good on the old email, right? I think I built the slideshow correctly this time. But over there, Pastor Jeff and Pastor Kenny are, I don't want to say they're out of their element, but they're a little bit out of their element where, I don't know if you have done something that was physically strenuous every day, from the sun up until the sun down, it wears you out. It wears you out, right? They're also not in their home country, so they're a little bit out of their element. Can't come home, kick up on the lazy boy, or I don't know if you guys have a lazy boy or not, but you can't just go to the fridge and grab a pop or a soda or whatever you call it over there. They have a little creature comforts and stuff like that, but there's also some of the places where they're at are not friendly here. Most of us in America, we can go to the gas station, and for the most part, we don't have to worry about being attacked by rebels or people who are just out to hurt, maim, kill, and do bad things to other human beings. So they're surrounded by some of that in some of these places where they go. Pastor Jeff was talking about a few areas where, like, you got to be really careful because there's people there that don't like you. That you not quite the right shade of skin to fit in, if you will, over there. And stuff like that exists, whether we want to admit it or not. And it's the enemy. It's the adversary that's constantly coming up against us. And we have to be aware of that. Now, the title on my message today is called "In the Midst of My Enemies." And this is something that had kind of popped into my head the other week, and that's an Albuquerque the other week. So it could have been 3 weeks ago, it could have been 4 weeks ago, I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of how we talk from Albuquerque land. But it's something that popped in, and if y'all have heard me speak before, not that I am like super great or anything, I like to take the stuff that we normally have seen, we've been raised up in, we've said it a million times probably, but let's peel back another layer, and let's see not just what the word says, but what he is saying to us through that word, right? And a lot of times it's hard to do, so we have to kind of take it in small pieces, okay? And so if you want to read along with me, I'll be just reading Psalm 23. I think it'll be up on the next slide as well. If you want to read it out loud, you can. If not, read it to yourself, but I'm going to read it to you, okay? Adonai is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He has me lie down in grassy pastures. He leads me by quiet water. He restores my inner person. He guides me in the right path for the sake of his own name. Even if I pass through death's dark ravines, I will fear no disaster, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff reassure me. You prepare a table for me, even as my enemies watch. You anoint my head with oil from an overflowing cup. Goodness and grace will pursue me every day of my life, and I will live in the house of Adonai for years and years to come. Now, that's out of the Complete Jewish Bible. In the New International Version, there's a couple of different words in there, and it says some different stuff, probably more familiar with, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Thou preparest a table for me in the midst of my enemies, in the middle of my enemies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel back the layer today on the specific one of verse 5, where he's preparing a table for us in the middle of our enemies. Okay, now, I've heard... I don't even know what the number is, but I've heard a lot of teachings on Psalm 23 where they talk about it. And he's leading us through the grassy pastures, protecting us like a shepherd, and all these things. And I'm not saying anything bad about those messages, but what I am saying is when you start to peel back layers, there's another element to understanding what he is saying to us, and it's your point of view. It's the lens at what you're looking through into this verse and what it's saying. Now, a lot of times it has to deal with your background. A lot of times it has to deal with what you're familiar with, what your profession is sometimes, if you will. And for the most part, a lot of the preachers and pastors out there have gone through these seminaries and college courses and stuff, and they have certificates and stuff. I have a certificate that was handmade by my kids that says best dad ever. Sorry, all the dads out there. That's really one of the only ones I have. So, in case you didn't know, I'm kind of a big thing in my house. But a lot of times the lens that I view some of the scriptures through is through with the point of view of a warrior, a soldier, because that was my profession for a long time. And a lot of the points of view that I hear Psalm 23 studied is from the perspective of a pastor or a shepherd, right? And that's why we get all this grassy pastures and he protects us and all this stuff, right? Because it makes sense, right? But what doesn't make sense, when's the last time you saw a shepherd take his sheep through a valley of death? Normally, that's not a regular thing. Now, I'm not saying that they're wrong and that I'm right. But what I am saying is I have seen some real live shepherds in some of the foreign countries that I've been to. They don't take their sheep through a valley of death, right? Okay, so that being said, this is the lens. I just kind of wanted you to understand a little bit of how my perspective works on this. Okay, so we're all familiar with this passage, but let's take a little bit deeper dive into the table part, right? Because we could study that verse until the cows come home, the whole thing, and I don't want to regurgitate a bunch of stuff that you've already heard. So we're going to focus on the table portion for today, right? Because I think it has a little bit more value when we peel back that top layer of everything we've heard on TV and all that stuff, and we kind of really dig down in there and we start asking ourselves the hard questions. What does that mean? Where does that mean? What does that mean? Right? And then also, don't forget that as he's preparing a table for us, he refers to us as his precious treasures, his special treasures, his chosen people, right? So, everybody has an invitation to the table. If you go to the next slide there, please. Everybody's invited to the table, right? And we see that when we go to John 3:16, one of the classic ones, right? It says, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son that whosoever believes on him should have everlasting life. And all. Everybody has been, that's the invitation. It's not hard. It's pretty cut and dry. You choose to show up, right? How many people have been invited to a family barbecue or a graduation party, a birthday party? I know when I was little, that was the only time we got to drink soda and get candy and stuff like that. Thanks, Mom. But we've all been invited to some type of function at some point or another, right? Now, those tables were not surrounded by our enemies, right? So there's a little bit of a difference, right? But the invitation was always there. And if you showed up, you got to hit the piñata with a stick, you get candy, you get their soda, cake, stuff like that, right? But the point is that you were invited to someone's table, which means you crossed someone's mind at some point, and they said, I want that person to come and have a meal with me or have a celebration with me or whatever the function was, right? And so that's a very personal action. When you think about somebody and they cross your mind and you say, I want that person to come here, right? And so it's somewhat, when you break it all down, it's somewhat of an intimate event. You have a relationship with that person in some way. When we were kids, I had a best friend, and I got invited over to his birthday parties, and he got invited over to my birthday parties. We were friends. We had a somewhat of an intimate relationship. Now, not intimate like in, a lot of people pervert things and stuff, but he knew me and I knew him. I could tell you what his favorite soda pop was, his favorite candy bar. He knew what color bike I had and stuff like that. We had somewhat of an intimate relationship. We knew something personal about the other person, right? So, it's not always an open invitation to everyone. If you went to a birthday party and everybody showed up, like everybody, the crazy guy on the end of the street that's yelling at cars as they go by, nobody knows what his name is, but that's what he does. The checker at Walmart that's always throwing your eggs in the bottom and then putting the milk on top and all that stuff. It wouldn't be an intimate event. It wouldn't be personalized because it would just be open to everybody, right? So there's a relationship there. And when he invites us to his table, him being Jehovah, right? It means that at some point or another, he thought about us enough to say, come to my table. I want you at my table, right? And we're going to go a little bit deeper into that here in a minute. So the invitation has been sent, and everybody who hears the gospel, hears the word, is invited. It's an open invitation. All you got to do is accept it. All you got to do is say, I want to be at your table. I'm coming. RSVP, boop, boop, boop. I'm coming, right? So not everybody will choose it, though, and we already know this. I'm sure you could probably throw a rock out, in Blackstone or in the mean streets of Dinwiddie where we live, and you could probably find a couple people who reject that invitation, right? They will bear they will bear witness to our meeting with our Creator. Everybody will, right? They'll see the amount of love that he has for us, his special treasures, his precious people, his chosen ones, right? Now, there's some other people that are going to be at this. There's some other people that are going to be at this event. Was I pushing the button? I might have been pushing the button. There's a couple of other things, we'll say, entities that will be at this event, and they are our enemies. I don't want anybody, don't tell any names, but everybody think about an enemy that you might have, right? Now, some people's enemies are named Tom. Some of them are Mary. Some of them are probably Steve or Carl, that guy that said he was going to fix my car and then didn't and kept my money. And we would consider them an enemy, right? They did us wrong. They were out to get us somehow. The air conditioner guy that showed up and said, yeah, you're good to go. 10 seconds after he leaves, blowing hot air again. But the enemies that I'm talking about that are going to be at the table where we're invited to with our Creator, with our Abba, they're different. Those are the ones that are out to destroy us. They're not out to scam us out of our money or whatever. They're the ones that are here to try to distract us, try to keep us from getting to that table, right? Now, the interesting thing, and I'm getting a little bit off my notes here, but the interesting thing that really just hit me in the brain bucket was that the Creator of everything that you see and that you know invited us to his table and invited them to the table, but they're not invited to the table. They got to stand out there. They have to watch us have a relationship with our Creator. And I'm not talking about just the table at the end when we all finish our race, right? And we go up to be with our Creator. If you think about it, and this is another peel back of the layer thing. If you think about it, when runners are doing their big long races, and Abraham's done a couple of these, I never have because I don't enjoy running, but they have tables all along the way, right? And they got water, Gatorade, I'm not sure what they put in, in the cups nowadays, electrolytes and things like that. But the runners come up and they grab a water and they splash it on themselves and then they keep running, right? Now, I don't know if they had a personal invitation to that table, but they go by and, man, they grab some stuff and they go, right? Well, our walk, our journey through our life and through everything, all the trials and stuff that God's given us is like that, where there's tables along the way, right? And we stop there, we get rest, we get some sustenance, and then we get back at it, right? I know if full disclosure, there's been a couple times when I'm like, dear Lord, please can I have a little bit longer break in between trials and tribulations to let my checking account catch up. Fixing stuff at the house and on the truck and everything. But, all joking aside, there is another aspect to being invited to someone's table is that there's room for you. I've rarely been invited to a function or something like that. Think of like a wedding reception, right? There's usually little cool placards where you're supposed to sit, things like that. I've been to a couple of military functions. We went to the EOD ball. They got little signs on the table where you sit, and this is person over here and that person over there. But there's room. There's room for you. Now, if everybody showed up that wasn't invited, there wouldn't be enough room. But the great thing about our Creator is that there is no limit to his table, but there's room for everybody if you accept the invitation. It's like that song, it's a big, big house with lots and lots of room. And there's just tables and stuff everywhere, right? Because it's infinite. And he invited everybody, right? Now, and there's some cultures where when you show up as the guest, the invited, you get the best food, the best wine, the best seat in the house, the best, back in the day, I get this before we had paper plates and stuff, you get the best china. My grandmother used to put out the best china when they was having a big thing and you wanted to be fancy or whatever. Of course, we had to sit at the kids' table with paper plates because we would have broke it. But the best comes out for the guests, right? So it's the same thing with our Creator. He puts out the best for us. In a land, Afghanistan land, there's a practice called Pashtunwali. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that. Anybody? No? Okay, so a little bit of education here today. You didn't know you were going to learn something about a different culture. So they have a practice what's called Pashtunwali. And basically what that is if you're a guest in their house, you are not only invited to the table, they're going to give you food, give you drink, whatever you need. You're also protected there too. So if you're running from your enemies and you show up there and they are in practice of Pashtunwali, they'll protect you from your enemies. Doesn't matter why they're chasing you. They won't let you get hurt because you're their guest and they're honoring you with that. They're honoring that part of their culture. Right? So Jehovah he's already prepared the table for us, even though we haven't arrived at that time yet. But there's other tables along the way, right? And we're gonna go a little bit deeper into the table part. There has been and there will be many more times when we meet him at appointed times. And those are those like smaller tables, like where we got to take a break. Dear Lord, I need a break. Let my checking account catch up before you break something else for me to fix and test my patience to build me and make me stronger and send me through the forge, right? And there'll be many more times between now and then that we need to just stop. We need to rest. We need to have that relationship with him. We need to get spiritual nourishment for our souls. We need replenishment and things like that. And that's why I'm super thankful. Every Sabbath, I always just say it to myself, thank you, Lord, for bringing us here. And thank you for designating a day where we can take it off. Good grief. There's also lots of adversaries that have appointed times of their own. And if you think about it, when we look at the part of the word where it talks about that he's never going to put us through a trial or tribulation that he knows that we're not prepared for or that he doesn't think that we can handle, there has to be a trial or a tribulation. There has to be some kind of adversary. There's some, whether it's that bolt you can't reach on the back of the transmission, or whether it's the air conditioner guy that said it was fixed and it wasn't, right? And a lot of times there's other things that we maybe misidentify, I'll say, where we say like the adversary of greed or lust or hatred or whatever. But those really aren't adversaries. Those are tools of the adversary. If you're a person that's susceptible to watching naughty things on the internet, guess what's going to happen all the time? It's going to pop up. It's a tool. So those aren't necessarily the adversaries. The adversaries are the evil demons and the spirits that are behind those. If you get interested enough, kind of lightly read through Enoch, and you'll see what some of those some of those demons were charged with as far as like what they work in, the job that they had, right? Now, those adversaries are going to see that we meet with our Creator at these tables. They're going to see that we are His chosen people and that they're forced to stand there and watch. They can't participate. No kiddie table, no cake and ice cream for them, no piñata, no candy, no soda. They just got to watch. Now, going back to the shepherd analogy, I don't know for 100% sure if any shepherd out there has ever made all the wolves and the bobcats and the bears and the predators stand around and watch his sheep graze in the field and do sheep things, whatever else they do, when they take a nap or whatever, and just make them watch. So that's why I got to give you this little bit of a different perspective, like the different scope that we're looking at this through. Not saying that their perspective was wrong, but it's a different perspective when you think about it that way. Now, can you imagine World War II, right? Fighting we'll just call them the bad guys. I don't want to get us kicked off YouTube. Fighting the bad guys, if God made all the bad guys stand around and then put on a barbecue for the good guys, right? For the people who were fighting for liberty and justice in the American way and all that good stuff, right? If he put on a barbecue and they had food and they had the best drinks and they had the best tables and they had air conditioning and all the creature comforts and everything, and they were made to just watch, wouldn't they be upset? Right? Can't do nothing about it. Now, let's see. Okay, yeah, good. Okay, so the next thing, and I'm going to try to move along here because I didn't even look at my watch, but in preparation for the event, he prepares the way. So the Bible tells us that he goes before us, right? Now, we also have to remember that we don't understand how God works as a dimensional being or as a person who invented and created time. So not only has he already gone before us, he already has seen where we are. He's also to the left and to the right. He's making the way, right? In Deuteronomy 31:8, it says, "But Adonai, it is he who will go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. So don't be afraid and don't be downhearted," right? And that tells us right there. He's already gone before us. Now, I know I am slightly guilty of this, where I invite people over and my table is not quite ready by the time they get there. You know, you never can say, like, if I say 5, I know these people are like more like 5:30, so try to time it right. But he already knows when we're going to arrive. So he's already gone before us. The table is prepared. The best food, the best drink, the best seats in the house, all the best everything for his chosen people, for his treasures are there already, right? So when we're walking the path that's set before us, he goes before us to prepare the way. He knows the tests that we need to forge us and make us a little better, make us a little stronger, but make us ultimately successful coming out of those things, obviously depending on how we go into it, right? So he already knows the things that we need to work on. You know, if you're not an alcoholic, you probably won't have any tests with alcohol. Because you don't have a problem with it. You've already defeated it, beat it, doesn't bother you, whatever, right? If you have a problem with drugs and heroin and stuff like that, then, obesity or overdoing feed and gluttony is not going to be a thing for you. This is not an influence in your life. So he's going to bring you through trials that test your weaknesses, but as you come out of those trials, you're going to be stronger, right? As long as we maintain our spiritual health and welfare, and as long as we trust in him for the strength. Because we all know, just like, and I love that song, it says, without you, I'm not enough. I came, I was measured, and I'm not enough. But he's going to bring you through this trial and say, what you going to do? And that's when you say, I'm going to give it to you. Easiest trial, right? Easiest. It's your problem now, not my problem. Right? But it still requires us to make that conscious effort. But what do we always do? What do we always do as silly human beings? We try to fix it ourselves, right? Okay, now, this is a question that kind of pops up sometimes. You can raise your hand, don't raise your hand, doesn't matter. Do you trust God with your eternal outcome? Right? Eternal life, right? Okay, then why can't we trust him to fix the car? Why can't we trust him to send somebody to help us out with a problem that we might have? How come we don't trust him with the small stuff? How come whenever that little tickle in the back of my throat, man, I hope I'm not getting strep throat? No, we don't trust him with that. We always run and try and do it ourselves, right? Instead of trusting in him. And it could be something as simple as like, no, I don't have strep throat. I rebuke it. It's not mine. It's not a tool of God. Not mine. Poof. Gone. Trial complete. Check. Can I take a break in between trials, please? Right? But he knows what you need, and he knows when you need it. So he knows the right amount of support that you need. He's walking with you at the same time. Anybody ever seen those little kids that are, maybe they're walking silly or doing something goofy and their parents reach down to try and help them so they don't fall? They go, no, I'm going to do it myself. And then they fall. And then everybody laughs at them. I mean, I laugh at them. You should have listened to your mom. She's trying to tell you to quit hopping on one foot and your shoelaces are untied. Right? Now, he's walking with us and he's invited us to his table. Wouldn't it only make sense that the table's been prepared prior to our arrival? So we get there, we're tired, we're sweaty, we're dirty, we've been through the forge, we came out, we're harder, we're better, and we're ready to sit at that table and take a knee, right? In the Army, we call it take a knee. Take a load off, rest, drink a little bit of water, splash some on your face. If you got the newer canteens, it doesn't smell, but if you got the old ones, it does. But you're ready to take a break, right? Now, I know it's hard to believe, but I was reading a book. Amy will tell you don't read books, and I'll tell you, I just look at the pictures. But it was a book about Psalm 23. We've had it for a long time, and I've read through it before. And it's written from a shepherd's point of view, right? And from a shepherd's point of view, it talks about the shepherd going before the flock to check out the grazing area. And in New Mexico, they're called mesas, right, which is Spanish for table, right? So the shepherd, he'll go out there and he'll look for where's the watering areas at. I need to plan his journey, plan his work around where things are. It's going to take him 2 days to get to this watering hole and 3 days to get to that watering thing. No water over there, right? But as he's doing that, he's also looking at other things too. Is there poisonous plants there that the sheep should not get into and eat, right? Is there a lot of tracks or signs of predators, right? Is there wolves everywhere? Is there bobcats out there? Is there worried about bears, things like that? So he's doing his preparation. He's preparing those tables, those mesas, for his flock to go out and do their thing, graze and do all that stuff that sheep do, right? And during his prep time, he may actually do some extra stuff. He might get rid of those plants that are poisonous. He might wait out there in the middle of the night for that coyote to show up, and then no more coyote, right? And he's got a brand new hat or something out of that. But he's preparing those tables for his flock. Okay? And so in the same way, Jehovah goes before us to prepare the way, and at the same time, the table's prepared for when we get there. That way we don't get there and he's like, ooh, hang on a second, let me just wipe this down and, let me pour the drinks, right? Let me get the food ready. It's already ready because he exists in all times and all dimensions. So it's already there. In Deuteronomy 1:28, it says, what sort of place is it that we're heading for? our brothers made our courage fail when they said, the people are bigger and taller than we are, and the cities are great and fortified up to the sky, and finally we have seen Anakim there. And I answered you, don't be fearful, don't be afraid of them. Adonai, your God, who is going ahead of you, will fight on your behalf, just as he accomplished all those things for you in Egypt before your eyes. So again, that wraps up everything. These people already saw what God could do in Egypt, and then they sent their spies, and they're like, oh, there's scary things up there. Forgetting that God already goes ahead of you to get things ready. What? Right? I mean, how is it that we can forget about it, but we still trust him with our eternal soul, right? But we're like, oh, but there's some mean people over there. God can't take care of the mean people? Weird sidebar story, and my wife can corroborate. There was I won't say his name, but there was a person when I was in elementary school who used to pick on me quite a bit. I know it's hard to imagine. I was one of the smaller kids in my class, right? And I mean, this kid picked on me to the point where I had to go to the doctor and get my toe fixed because he would stomp on it all the time. And it was to the point where he had actually, not to get gross, but the toenail was tearing up my skin, and I had to go get it cut off and removed and all that stuff. Anyway, so this happened like a lot, like a couple weeks in a row. And at that point, he was one of the bigger kids, and he was in a different grade than me, and so I just didn't have the courage and really the fortitude to stand up to him and say anything. So I would just come home, and Mom would be like, "How was your day at school?" So-and-so kept stepping on my toe, and it's bleeding again, and so she called the school, and the school was like, well, we'll talk to him. But anyway, not to belabor my story, but one day, while we were out on the playground, and this was back when we had swings, and not like the little, goofy swings that are like that tall. These ones were, they were like 2 stories. You could get going, like you could die if you fell off one. Anyway, so this kid was on the swing. I almost said his name. This kid was on the swing, and he's swinging, and I was just doing something silly like I normally do, just whatever the kids do back then. I don't even remember what I was doing, but it was making him laugh, and he laughed to the point where he soiled his pants in front of the whole school because it was recess time. And so that's one of the silly stories that pops into my head whenever we read that, and it says, just stand by and watch how our enemies are punished. This was like a kid that was like a tough kid, bully, right? He didn't just bully me, he bullied a bunch of kids, right? And then here it is, he wet himself in front of the whole school. Guess who didn't step on my toe anymore after that? Him. Matter of fact, I don't think he came to school for a couple days, but anyway, I just figured I'd share that story because that's how our enemies get punished sometimes. Anyway, in Isaiah 45:1, it says, thus says Adonai to Koresh, or Cyrus, his anointed, whose right hand he has grasped, so that he subdues nations before him and strips kings of their robes, so that doors open in front of him and no gates are barred. I will go ahead of you, leveling the hills, shattering the bronze gates, and smashing the iron bars. He goes ahead of us to prepare the way. And at the same time, the table is prepared, waiting for us to meet him there, right? So what an awesome Abba we have. What an awesome creator, right? He says, you're going to go through some hard things. You're going to go through some trials, but I'm going to be there with you. But I've already conquered everything along the way. You just got to make it through the trial. That's it. All you got to do, right? But why is it so hard for us? It shouldn't be that way, right? But now that we've talked about how he has invited us and he's prepared the table, let's take a look at the purpose of the table. So if you can go to the next slide there. So everybody's familiar with this picture, I'm pretty sure. It's an artist's rendition of the Last Supper. A couple things that are missing off of that picture is some cups and some food. But you see Jesus in the middle, right? Being cool, right? And all the disciples are there, and they're arguing over something, probably who ate the chicken first or something. But anyway, the table is what I want to kind of focus on. It's there, it's prepared, it's set, right? Now, when we look at and ask ourselves, what is a table? What does a table mean, right? Well, if we just ask a kid, what's a table? He's going to be like, it's what I got to sit at and put my head down every time I eat my sister's snacks without her permission, right? But a table can be a lot of different things, right? It's a meeting place. It's a place of safety, a place of reverence, right? A lot of times I'm sure some of you parents out there, your kids do something at the table, burping and all that stuff, and you go, hey, have a little respect. Not at the table. If you're at our house, it goes a little weirder than that. We're trying to eat food here. Stop talking about those things, right? It's a place of sustenance where you can get sustenance, a place of rest, right? Sometimes it's good to just sit at the table. And you get your ice cold tea or water or whatever with the lemon in it and just hang out. Right? Just sit there. It's something you can lean over on. You can lean back, put your feet on the table. If it's a coffee table, not at the dinner table. That's gross. But it's all these different things and more. I just listed a few there just to kind of get your mind thinking about what is a table? What's the table that he's preparing for us? It's all those. Place of safety. Our enemies are all around us, but they can do nothing. They are powerless there because they only have the power that our Creator gives them at the appointed times to use in our trials and our tribulations. That's it. Aside from that, they can do nothing. Nothing, right? It's a place of reverence. We're meeting our Creator there. I don't know about you, but I would probably put on my best robes or whatever we're going to wear up there. Hopefully it's a nice temperature. I'm sure it will be. But we're going to wear our best. We're going to meet our Creator there. We're not going to just pull up to the table and, sorry about that, God. I'll clean that up in a minute. It's going to be where we meet the person who made everything and was waiting for us and conquered everything along the way for us. So we should probably have some reverence for that. It's going to be, like I said, a place of meeting. He called us. He said, hey, all you got to do is follow me. All you got to do is I gave you 10 commandments, then I broke it down to 2, and they all both had the same theme, love, right? Is it that hard? It shouldn't be, right? It's a place of sustenance. He's going to give us what we need to survive, especially the tables along the way. Tables along the way, right? Oh, dear Lord, my roof is leaking. My truck is leaking. My feet are leaking. I'm not sure where that smell is coming from out in the backyard, but I'm pretty sure something back there is leaking. Right? He's going to say, I got it. Take a break. Read a couple verses. I got you a message coming to you. All you got to do is read them and open your spiritual ears and your spiritual eyes, right? Those who have ears to hear and eyes to see, right? Take a break. I got it. I got it. You never know. Sometimes your neighbor might come over and be like, hey, man, I noticed there's a funky smell coming from your backyard. You know I install septic tanks for a living, right? You want me to take a look at it? Would you? Yeah, no charge, because it's stinking up my yard too, right? By the way, in my previous life, I used to be a roofer. You want me to take a look at that roof? You never know. There's all kinds of weird stuff that happens, right? It's a place of rest, like I said. He said, I prepared a table for you. You've been running hard. You've been beating them trials down. You got the high score. Take a load off. Take a break, right? Take a break. That's when the good stuff starts happening, is when you're taking a break, and he's like, all right, go ahead and release those things. And then you're like, hey, man, did you guys get a check in the mail for like $1,800? No? Just me? That's the weirdest thing ever. I don't know if I trust that, but I'm going to go put it in the bank before it's all gone, right? Take a break. Take a break. Now, think about all the other things that people do at their tables. They put puzzles together, they play board games, have dinners, conversations, and stuff like that. We don't live at the table, but we stop there when we need to. We don't live at the table, but we stop there when we need to, right? We can't rest all the time. When he brings us to his table, it's to fellowship with him. So it's all those things, but it's to fellowship with him, right? We're resting. We're getting sustenance. He's feeding our spirit. He's telling you, it's going to be okay. It's going to be, I got this. Just let it go. Let me have it. Take a load off. I got this. Right? Now, all the time, bearing in mind, as we're fellowshipping at the table, where's our enemies? All around us, watching the creator of the universe have fellowship with his special treasures, his chosen people, right? I feel bad for them. I'll just tell you this real quick. It's not in my lesson, but so I was perusing through some of the videos on YouTube, trying to stay up on, real news and stuff. And there was one that came up, and I won't say the pastor's name. And I didn't disagree with his message. The title of his message was something like, "Should Christians go to war?" Not spiritual war, but war. I'm like, been there, done that. Kind of messed up from it a little bit, but whatever. We're all broken vessels, right, being put back together. But in his, and I'd already told you this, so don't. He was talking about when he was talking about going to war. He was talking to a couple of other folks, and one of them was a pacifist. And if you don't know what a pacifist is, it's somebody who tries to avoid conflict at all costs, right? We should never be in conflict. And the pastor there said, well, what if someone broke into your house in the middle of the night? And they're headed upstairs to go and hurt your wife and hurt your kids. What are you going to do? And the pacifist answered, and he said, I'd pray for them. And I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. Then the pastor said something that, in my opinion, this isn't, it's not like the Spirit talking to me, or this is just Josh's opinion. The pastor said, I would pray that person goes to hell, and then I would grab my shotgun and make sure that he gets there. Now, we giggle, we laugh. It struck me that somebody who is trying to have a relationship with the creator of the universe would say something like that. Because, and I can't say that I've never done this before in my whole entire life. I cannot say that. But we're all sinners saved by grace. I stand before you, a broken down vessel. God's putting me back together a little bit at a time. But we shouldn't ever pray that someone goes to hell. And a pastor should never tell his congregation that. We should always pray for them to find peace, to find love, to find the Creator. And even, and I'm going to say this, and I love everybody in here, and everybody's point of view is valuable to me. But even if you're a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because at the end, when we get up with our Creator, is he going to be a Republican or a Democrat? No. He's going to be like, I laughed at you guys the whole time. You're fighting over the Republicans this and the Democrats that, and I'm up here like, y'all are stupid. If you quit arguing about dumb stuff that doesn't matter and realize that you were created to love one another, you wouldn't have any problems being anything. And so, pray for your enemies. That's a hard thing to do, especially for myself, and I'm, all the fingers pointing back at me, because I had a lot of enemies when I was deployed into Afghanistan and Iraq. But obviously I was successful. However, if you were to see me on the inside, not so successful at being obedient and doing stuff like that. And so pray for mercy for them. Pray that God would change their hearts. Not that they would come to agree with you on all your points of view, but pray that God would change their hearts like he changed Pharaoh's heart. Right? That's how we get to the table. right? So let's see, I lost my place in the notes because I went off. In Exodus 23:12, it says, again, just to reiterate, our enemies are there to witness our relationship with Jehovah. That's the only reason that they exist and that they're there, right? So in Exodus 23:12, it says, for 6 days you are to do work, but on the seventh day you are to rest, so that your ox and your donkey can rest, and your slave girl's son and the foreigner be renewed. From the very beginning, he set up a time for us to rest. And then he commanded us to rest. Probably the easiest commandment to keep, but it's the hardest to arrive at. And if you don't believe that, go to some of the churches that only gather on Saturday, and they don't, they say, well, we say it's the 10 Commandments, but really it's like 8.5, right? That Sabbath one. Who even knows when the Sabbath is, right? It says it. It says it, right? Open your eyes, open your ears. And it's the hardest to arrive at, right? Because, and I'm guilty of this too, where I'll be like, you know what? If I don't do the brakes on Amy's car, no one's going to do the brakes on Amy's car. And then I'll have to pay Carl to do it, $120 to do it, something that cost me $30, right? And then we end up doing it. And then we're just like, ugh. And then we smash our hands on the wrench, and everything goes wrong because we're not being obedient, right? We didn't rest. We met him at the table, but then we're not sitting down. We're like, oh, I'm going to go, nope, I'm going to go do this. Thanks for setting the table, though. Right? But I'm going to go do something else, right? Because it's hard to rest, right? Pastor Jeff talked a little bit about that last week. Then the purpose for the table, replenishment as well. Matthew 4:4. But he answered, the Tanakh says, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes out of the mouth of Adonai. So sometimes the replenishment is just a little bit different. It's not always food, right? I know it's hard for me to believe that, right? I love food. But sometimes it's just having that relationship, listening to what he says, letting him renew your spirit, right? In Deuteronomy 8:16, it says, who fed you in the desert with manna, unknown to your ancestors, all the while humbling and testing you in order to do you good in the end. He sent manna down, right, to replenish them. Now, that one is food. I'm still curious on what it is, but it must have been a complete food because it sustained them for a long time. In Deuteronomy 8:17, it says, you will think to yourself, my own power and the strength of my own hand have gotten me this wealth. But is it? Is it our own power? It's not. Those things were set up a long time ago for us. You really think you earned that job interview? You really think that your boss is paying you what you're actually worth? Right? We have too lofty of thoughts of ourselves sometimes. In Deuteronomy 8:3, it says, he humbled you, allowing you to become hungry, and then he fed you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had ever known, to make you understand that a person doesn't live on food alone, but on everything that comes out of the mouth of Adonai. He humbled them, and then he fed them. He said, are you done being hungry? Would you like to come to the table that I made for you? Just sit down. Sit down. That's all you got to do. Come to the table, sit down. Manna's going to come around. Boop. But no, we like to, well, if I don't clean out the gutters. When Yeshua was in the desert, he was tempted by the adversary for food and drink, but he responded by saying that we don't live by bread alone, but by the Father's words. So even Yeshua was tempted, right? But he's like level 99 on the spirit level. Some of us probably would have been like, it's hot out here. It's been 38 and a half days. Just a little sip of water. Just a little sip. I'll let it go in my mouth. I'll swish it around. And then I'll spit it out. There we go. I feel better, right? That's what we do. We try to compromise. We try to say, see, nothing happened. Lightning didn't come down and hit me. Must be okay. No, not okay, right? Now, the enemies, who are they? Who are the adversaries that are forced to watch us fellowship with our Creator, with Jehovah. They're the adversaries and dark spirits who seek to lead us into sin and try to tempt us into failure, right? They're the small voices that scream at us, you're not worthy. You're not good enough. Remember that time back in 1986 when you ran over that person's cat and then you lied about it? And then you try to cover it up? You're not going to make it. But hey, we were already forgiven. The way was already paved for us. Everything was already done. The table was set. He's waiting for us. They're the ones that try to get us to walk away from the Father, from our Creator, from the Lord of hosts, who is waiting for us to meet him at the table that he prepared. However, at the table, at his table, they can only watch and be silent. They can't say anything. They can't do anything. They're invited there, but their invitation isn't an all-inclusive. Theirs is a stand over there. Shh. These are my special treasures, my chosen people, my beloved, right? So, he chooses whom will sit with him and whom will be left outside. And it's not because he's a choosy God. It's because if we choose him, he chooses us. So it's a relationship. It's a relationship. He's not going to force you to go to heaven. I don't even know if that's even, like, hey, would you like to go to paradise? Not really. You're going. No, that's not going to happen. You want to go to paradise where everything's perfect? Yeah, come. Where do I sign? Do I even need shoes? Because I don't need to go get them if I don't need them. Right? All we have to do is show up. That's it. Show up. That's all we got to do. Show up. It's not easy to show up, though, because the road's narrow and full of trials. And he tells us that in Matthew 7:13. He says, go in through the narrow gate, for the gate that leads to destruction is wide, and the road is broad. You know why? There's a lot of people traveling on that road, and they're hanging out together, headed to destruction. Woo! Right? But it's a narrow gate and hard road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Now, some people read that verse and then they say, oh, it's a hard road, man. Oh, yeah, but God already paved the way. He already conquered all the stuff along the way. The song, it said he already took away the keys of death and hell. Now, they weren't literal keys. What he took away was the authority. He took away the authority from death and hell. Right? So it doesn't have authority over us anymore. But the road is narrow. Why is the road narrow? Because there's only a couple of us going down it, right? There's only a couple of us going down it. And why is it hard? Because it's too easy to fall off the bandwagon and get into that stuff and let those adversaries tempt you to leave the table and walk outside with them and go have a smoke break with the demons, right? Don't take no smoke breaks. Just stay at the table. You got everything you need. Now, what does it mean to have a place at the table? When you realize that you have a place at the table, not only are you invited, but you are expected. You are expected, right? So just like being invited to a graduation party or wedding reception or whatever, you're both invited and expected. Plans have been made for you to arrive. The table is set. Your place is already designated there. All you got to do is get there, right? What we don't see is that as soon as we accept the invite to his table, that's when the battle begins. That's the part we don't see. All those adversaries that are made to watch while we're at the table, when we accept that invite, RSVP, dear Lord, I will be there. That's when the fight starts. And the fight is for your soul, for your attention, for your time, for your love. Some people are greedy and they love money, can't get enough. Some people love food and they can't get enough food. Some people love too many people the wrong way and they get distracted. Their time is wasted, right? Now, we talked about some of the weapons that they use, right? Hatred, anger, lust, slothfulness, loathing, things like that. So those are some of the weapons. And now that we've identified some of the weapons, those are the things and the spirits and the evil demons that are made to watch us sit there and have lunch with our Creator, right? To have rest with our Abba. They're made to see how He loves us and how we love Him, right? And let's see. I'm going to read Joshua chapter 1, 1 through 9 real quick. And I'm going to do like a 2-part closing with this, just 2. Because that was it. Yeah, I got one little small thing to get through, right? But I want to share it with you. So in Joshua 1, chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "After the death of Moshe, the servant of the Lord, and the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people have to get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land that I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. No one will be able to stand against you. The table is set. All we have to do is walk the narrow path and get there. That's it. Because He even says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. He's right next to us. Remember what I said in one of my other messages. He's in front of you saying, come on, you got it. He's behind you going, come on, you got this, you got this. And He's on the side of you going, come on, get up, let's go, come on. And then He's also over there waiting at the table. Man, that was record time, this one. Next trial is going to be a little bit harder because you're getting pretty good at it, so we got to test you a little bit better, right? So it's your choice to sit at the table, really. The children of Israel traveled across different lands. They battled hunger. They fought enemies, although some of the battles were not conventional. And ultimately, they made it to the land that Jehovah promised them. The key is that they made the choice to follow Joshua, who was appointed by Moshe to represent God. They chose. They said, we're going to make it. Pack your stuff. We're getting ready. Let's go, right? You also have the free will not to come to His table. That choice will put you in the outskirts with all the enemies and subject to their attacks and temptations. I was going to share a story, but I think I'm running short on a little bit of time here. But in that space, you will not see rest. In that space, you will not see peace. In that space, you won't see joy. That's not what the adversary provides, right? There's fake joy. There's fake peace, but it doesn't come from here. It comes from temporary things, right? I got a lot of money, so I'm happy. So, when you die, can you take it with you? No, you can't. You will not be replenished when you make the choice not to go to the table. In my house, and there's probably a couple of people that have had dinner at my house, do you know, when I say dinner's ready, you're either going to be one of two people. You're going to be a person that gets fed, or you're going to be a person that gets hungry. Because if you're not quick, you're going to be hungry. Right? Unless we have guests, we let them eat first. Then I send my little minions over there to finish up the rest of it. But you'll be continually struggling to try and make it on your own. Because that's what we do. Every time we, even us as believers, when we try to do it ourselves, it's a struggle. It's always a struggle, right? You can only sit at one table. In 1 Corinthians 10:21, this is my second closing, right? Okay. In 1 Corinthians 10:21, it says, you cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons too. You cannot have a part in both the Lord's table and the table of demons. You cannot drink from the cup of Adonai and the cup of devils. So you got to make the choice. You got to make the choice whether you want to sit at Jehovah's table or at the table with the adversary. That'll be where all your enemies are. I don't know about you. I've been in situations where the enemy was everywhere. But I don't want to hang out. At that time, I didn't want to hang out with them. I wasn't like, hey, guys, cease fire, so I can come and sit at your table. I want to see what it looks like from your point of view. No, heck no. We return fire, right? That's why they're called the enemy, right? So the easiest way, one of the easiest ways to tell what table you're sitting at is to evaluate what's important to you. Is your relationship with your Creator important to you? Or is all the ancillary crap of life important to you? Making more money, better position. You will respect me. You will respect. Jimmy Dale, you better respect me. You better stand at parade rest when I come and talk to you. No, those things are not important. I hope Jimmy Dale loves me. But the adversary will make your fleshly life comfortable to keep you there and satisfy you in the flesh, right? You might not have what we perceive as troubles and tribulations because money just comes to you, sold another house, made a bunch of more money, all that stuff. How's your relationship with the Creator? Or is your relationship with the dollar bill? Evaluate. Got to evaluate yourself. Yah's table will energize you. It'll energize your spirit. It'll feed your soul. It'll provide you with support and love throughout all your trials and make you stronger. It'll provide you with joy. It'll extend your peace to the inside. You'll be peaceful on the inside, not just peaceful a little bit on the outside. Even through the trials. I know I read a scripture a while back, and now I'm coming down. I read a scripture a while back that said, count it all joy. All the trials you go through, count it all joy. And then my truck started leaking coolant out of the water pump. So I had to take a knee for a moment and say, it's all joy. It's all joy. As I swiped my credit card at the auto mechanic shop, it's all joy. It's joy, right? But you know what? God made that water pump leak so that it wouldn't break down on me while I was on the highway. I drove like that for like 2 days to work, and I'm like, the heck is that smell? Oh, it's antifreeze burning on the front of my engine. Okay, got it. Lord, thank you. Thank you for identifying a problem early on before it became a huge problem, and I get run over by a semi-truck because my truck just stops in the middle of I-95, right? Count it all joy, right? Good grief. That's why that was a big reason. I was like, dear Lord, can I take a longer break in between trials, please? Let my checking account catch up. But the bottom line, and if you take nothing else away today, even all my goofy jokes and antics and stuff, the bottom line to my message to you today, meet him at the table. Meet him at the table. Don't tarry. Don't sit there and then jump back. Don't hang out. Don't look out and be like, man, sure would like to go hang out with my enemies. This table thing, right? Meet him at the table. And that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you got something out of it. I know I went a little bit, like 2 minutes and 51 seconds long, right? So I'm okay. We're resting all day, right? But I enjoyed sharing with you. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate it. And that's all I got. We got one video. Kyle said one video.
Well, how y'all doing? I know it's Sabbath. I've been watching on the TV, having a great service. We just got out of the studio. We left at 9 this morning, and then we just got back from the studio. Pastor Kenny laid down 4 songs. It was great. Everything turned out really wonderful, so I'm very excited for y'all to see that and hear that. We had good services in Liberia at Pastor Foley's or Bishop Foley's, and also at Apostle Peter's. And then tomorrow be at Pastor Nick's for the Sunday morning service. And then Monday we have some things to do in town. Tuesday I'll be teaching some leadership essentials and principles to Pastor Ben's church. And then Wednesday we go to Pastor Joseph's church in Ashama. And then, of course, Thursday we head on home. We've been doing really good. We thank you for all your prayers. We thank you for your support. We thank you for your intercessoring for us and watching over us in America. We've been having a great time, great services, great outpourings. And we love you and we miss you and we can't wait to see you when we return. So keep us in our prayers. We've got a couple more days left. Let's see, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 5 more days left. And then we'll be back on Friday, and I'll see you all on Sabbath. So have a great Sabbath as you're worshiping the Lord. I'll be listening to Brother Josh preach, making sure he's giving you sound doctrine. And then I'll be doing some other things tonight and preparing for my service tomorrow at Pastor Nick's Christ Jubilee Church. So we love you all. We miss you. Pastor Kenny is out and about. And so I want to say, not only from me, but to him, we love you and I miss you, and we'll see you soon. Love you all. Shabbat Shalom.
All right. If anybody else needs any prayer, come on up under this thing too. We'll pray for you too. Father, we come to you today, and first and foremost, we ask your forgiveness. Forgive us where we fail you, Father. Make us stronger. Make us whole, Father. Lord, we thank you for each and every one of the kids under this prayer shawl. Lord, we just ask that your hand of protection be over them, Father, that your guidance would be inside them, Lord, showing them which way to go, Father, that you would put a conviction on them to follow you and to come to your table, Lord. We ask that you watch over them, Father. Watch over all of us. Keep us all healthy, and thank you for the things that you have provided for us, Father. Thank you for setting the table, and thank you for waiting for us at the table. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Yevarechecha Yahovah Ve'yishmerecha Panav alecha vichuneka Yisa Yahovah Panav elecha Ve'yaseh Lecha Shalom.
Jehovah, he who exists, kneel before you, presenting gifts, and will guard you with a hedge of protection. Jehovah, he who exists will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, bringing order, and he will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Jehovah, he who exists will lift up the wholeness of his being. He will look upon you, and he will set in place all you need to be whole and complete. May Yehovah grant all the desires of our hearts, fulfill all of our purposes and all of our petitions. May Yehovah hear from heaven, quickly answer all our requests, save us in the day of adversity, and in the name of Yeshua the Messiah, defend us from our enemies, from poverty and from bondage. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everybody. We'll see you in the Oneg.